going on, guys? This is going to be the first of a couple videos that I make. This whole channel is going to be essentially all on skateboard building. So I'm going to go over some of the stuff that I've researched and learned through trial and error. I am still in the process of making a complete deck. So most of the stuff out there, everybody's been doing it for a while. You know, they've got stuff pretty much dialed in. And sorry, let me fix this. Okay. I've pretty much got stuff dialed in, which I get, but at the same time, for guys like myself that are trying to learn the process, I think there's value in going through those trials, tribulations, and learning. So this is as far as I have got. This is a mini version of this guy. So this is where I am at in the process. And I don't make videos, I don't fucking TikTok, YouTube, all that, or well, I guess I technically YouTube, never mind. But I'm not a big social media guy, I'm not a big electronics guy. I'm a degenerate punk rock, alcoholic, fucking drug-loving, skateboard, fucking surfer shitbag guy. So, if you're offended easily, probably not the place for you. Yeah, so anyways, this is what we got so far. So basically, you can see, there is my line. So I tried to take it, this is with the bandsaw. I took it down to about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then I used, I just got like a cheapo Harbor Freight belt sander. Comes with like the wheel on the front, and it takes belt like one of these guys, and just basically ran it on there. I've been doing a lot of Facebook live videos. The problem is it's my personal Facebook, and not everybody on my Facebook gives a fuck about skateboards. So the plan and intention is to go to YouTube, which I've never done before. So we're gonna give it a shot. I will say up front, the skateboard building community is kind of odd. It can be secretive, understandably so. It can also skateboarding is a lot like punk rock. You don't get into it to make money, whether that's building, skating. You do it because you like it. Same thing with punk rock. Some of the biggest bands in punk rock are still poor shit because they do it because it's just what they like to do. Now, I get, as we get older, we get families, responsibilities, and just because you know, you may be responsible, successful, and want a couple bucks in the bank and be able to provide for your family doesn't mean you're not a punk, you're not a fucking skater, whatever. My background is I've surfed since I was little, grew up in California. I live up in the Pacific Northwest now, still surf, still skate, I suck. Surfing's really more my gig, but I love skating and have always done it. And that's my fix when I'm out of the water. I also snowboard, play in a punk rock band, etc., etc. So Um, ultimately, uh, what I would like to do, because that's the other thing, I kind of wonder, like, there's a lot of guys out there that are just popping out boards. Some openly are like, yeah, this is like my side business. I have a skateboard, company or whatnot. Other guys you don't really know. So, you know, uh, what you want to make a bunch of skateboards for is up to you, I guess. I ultimately just want a shit ton of skateboards of all kinds of varieties for both me and my kids. Um, but past that, obviously, I would like to give it to family, friends, promote skateboarding to them, to their kids as much as possible. Uh, and when I can get it really dialed in, what I'd really like to do is, we've all seen those kids at the skate park who are either, super broke, come from a poor family, or like when I was growing up, I wasn't super poor, but the philosophy and mindset whenever I asked for a new surfboard, skateboard, snowboard was basically that's not a sport. Fuck you, they're expensive. But if I was like, hey dad, I'm a fucking jock, can I get a basketball, football pads, baseball gear, equipment, whatever the fuck they call it, generally your parents will go rush right out and get that stuff for you. I was lucky enough that my dad did ultimately see that it was a legitimate sport, so I was able to get decent gear and had to get sponsored and stuff in the beginning to be able to have nice shit. So, anyways, I would like to come up with putting together some really great boards just to give to kids for free so they always have a good board to ride. Oh, no, I didn't. So, we're going to go over a few things. This is kind of a weird video. Normally, it's just be at a certain stage in the building process, kind of talking through it, and then showing you what I'm doing. This beginning video will be more of the tools I've used, my mindset from what I've learned. Before I even built my first board, I probably had done daily research on the subject for 2-3 months before I even made it. I just made this literally on Wednesday. So, with that said, let's start with press. You cannot make a board without a press. Well, so your types of presses. You have your traditional presses, right, that you'd see in any kind of shop. They I initially started to make one myself. I had a bunch of some super thick fucking metal left over from a car build that a buddy gave me, and some other pretty thick stuff that I was going to use, that I'm still probably going to use and make just down the road. But here's the dilemma. For a press like that, you essentially have, that I know of, 3 options for your forms. One is not available to me, which is 3D printer to make your form. I don't have that. I'm poor. CNC machine. You can build all kinds of cool shit with that, but I don't have one. So all my shit's done by hand. So, with that said, when you're running a press like that, well, first let's step back. The hydraulics of the press. Initially, I looked at things like motorcycle stands, or not stands, motorcycle jacks, things like that, which went over to, like your bottle jacks. You can get 20-ton, like a 20-ton bottle jack essentially from like Harbor Freight, super cheap place, for like $130 for a pneumatic one. And you'll see guys do just the regular pump jacks, but you got to do them at the same time. You definitely want to use at least two, in my opinion. When it's pneumatic, you just hook it up to your air compressor, and it, in theory, I don't know, I've never used it or built one yet, but the theory is they both get the same amount of pressure at the same time, building it up and so forth. Then recently, because I've surfed and skated for so long, I got a lot of buddies that have worked in different companies for snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, etc., that I've bounced ideas off of, and without putting the company out there, which is, in my opinion, the best snowboard company, but they also are very well known for their surfboards, which I'm not a fan of. They're also known for their skateboards, both popsicles and carveboards. And from guys that used to work there, what they use is airbags, the hydraulic airbags for moving heavy stuff, which I don't know why I didn't think about that. But think about it. When you have a bottle jack, right? I don't even know how many fucking tons this thing is. Anyways, you got a bottle jack. That is where all your pressure is isolated to, right? Even if you put some kind of wood on it, which will help in what you do, or metal, whatever, material on it of some sort to disperse that pressure, all that pressure is still going to be isolated near this point, right? Where if you have a bag that's inflating, that is the whole length, the whole width of your board, all your pressure is equally distributed throughout the whole board. So you're not getting hot spots, you're not getting spots that have half the amount of pressure to it, etc. So in the future, that is probably going to be the direction that I go. I don't even know how expensive they are because it's something I just recently learned. So with that said, you got your press, then you go to your forms. Your forms, you got your different options, like I said, plastic through your 3D printers, which is cool if you got one. The other option is wood. A lot of the stuff online tells you to use 2x4s. I have a carpentry, masonry, whatever background, several different trades. I'll tell you that using a good quality like maple, birch, plywood, you know, something that's more of a quality piece versus, I think I got a mixed match. Here you go. Cheap versus expensive. Sorry. This whole camera shit's new to me. So you can kind of see the differences in the wood. So this is like your cheaper shit, right? Versus your good shit. So what you do is you want to cut them, right? So this is going to be your pressure points. And you're going to make, I don't know, I think it's like 14 or 16 of these. And you put them all together, making this, and they will all cup in towards the middle where your flatter space is, flare up for your concaves, flare up for your noses, but all your contours will change. And it can be a pretty lengthy process. Once you get them all together and carved out, you know, you'll glue them together. Some guys run something like an all thread through it, right? They'll run it all the way through their molds, maybe 3 or 4 pieces that run through it. And you'll have your bottom, and you will have your top forms, something like that. something like that, right? And that's what's gonna press your skateboard. And your materials are gonna kick you out something like that when you press it on your veneers. These are just the center cuts for my rough cut on the bandsaw. Which brings me to something else, and I haven't really got like the full answer. And I know I keep looking up over here. I don't know why. I know the lens thing is over there. Whatever. It may be fucking weird to you guys watch it. I don't know. Anyways, so online, you used to be able to print. I have them over in the drawer. Where's it at? Fuck, which one of these is it? Oh, here we go. Used to be able to print these little templates, right, that you could just put on your wood to make them. The problem is for whatever reason they took the PDF down, which I'll get to my theory on that. So getting a full scale one, unless you know electronics, maybe you can convert it into something that's scale. This one I thought was scale, and it was literally some kid in Indonesia that he wasn't even speaking English, but he was stoked on skating. I don't really know what he said, but he looked like he knew what he was doing, and he had the PDF. Had the PDF file on there. Printed it off, still wasn't right. But I decided to just go with this just as a starter, space them, connect the dots myself, so to speak, and kind of see where it went from there. So to kind of get away from the presses for a second, so if you're not familiar with a company called Roar Rocket, they're basically the leaders and the top as far as when it comes to DIY skateboards. They, from how it's been explained to me, own all of it. If you put a skateboard on a foam mold that is veneered in a press bag, no matter how you do it, any way, shape, or form of that, they own it and can probably sue you if you fucking do whatever. So with that said, because skateboards make money, I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar industry. I don't know, maybe it's even billion-dollar industry nowadays. So I think that's why a lot of that stuff came down. There's several other big agencies, companies, organizations out there as well. And I don't know, I don't really like that. I think it's kind of disheartening and takes away from the roots of skateboarding. But again, you know, we all got to make a living. And if you were the first one to figure this shit out and do it, I mean, you know, you deserve to be able to make a living off that if you so choose. So I think that is why. Anyways, so then you have cement molds, which I'll show you later. They're out there. I did make a test mold and the boxes, which I'll go over. But I didn't like the way mine turned out. I totally fucked them up, and we'll go into why. So those are your options: plastic, 3D printer, wood, hand carved or CNC'd, and cement. And there's a couple different ways to make the forms. If you use cement, do not use regular cement. You want to get like a 5 to 9,000 psi cement, which, if you're unfamiliar with masonry and cement, so basically those numbers, those psi numbers, means that after 28 days, like the one I have right now, this pro finish one is a 5,000 psi. After 28 days, you are at 5,000 psi of pressure that it can handle. Your regular concrete will crack, spall, pop, maybe even explode. I don't know, hella sketchy, especially with that amount of force. A regular bag of cement's like $4. A bag of the pro finish, an 80-pound bag, 5,000 psi, I want to say is like $8 or $9 a bag. And then it goes up to, I want to say 1200 psi, but a bag of that, like a 55-pound bag, will run you $27 a bag. So the stronger it is, the more unforgiving it is, and the more expensive it is, but the stronger it is. Also with that, when you are making your cement molds, you want to back them with, or fill them with rebar, right? It doesn't have to be crazy. There's some good videos out there on it. And ultimately, I'm going to remake forms. I'm going to make presses. Everything's going to be on the channel, the whole procedure. And when I fuck up, I'm going to show you guys. It isn't, I'm not here to be a fucking YouTuber and get likes and views. I'm here to put out information for guys like me that this is like their obsession. They want as much info as they can from as many people as they can. So anyways, super strong cement, reinforced with rebar, tie wired, blah, blah, blah. The cons of the press system. Well, the pros, you can press 5 boards at a time. You get obviously quite a bit of pressure and compression on those molds. The more the merrier. I think industry standard is like the pro manufacturers. I want to say it's 40,000 psi. Is what they generally press their boards at, but you don't have to have that. Some guys use clamps, all kinds of crazy shit. Whether it works or not, I don't know, I haven't used that. But you're limited, right? Because if you make a mold, that's it. That's what it's gonna make every single time, the same exact skateboard. So if you like got that magic board that's just super sick and you know everybody loves it, you love it, that's the way to go. And that's going to be more mass production. To starting, don't waste your time making a press. If it's something you know you're in for the long haul, hell yeah, start building it, but don't make that be your initial form of pressing. What you want to do, I'm going to show you Roar Rockets first. Roar Rocket has designed a bag. This is a really big one. I've got shit in it. So this is a 70-inch by 20-inch bag. They have center valves and side valves that are at the end. This is where you vacuum out the air. You'll put your veneers, your form, and these, actually it really is a loofah, in the bag. I like to put one on the top, one on the bottom. And basically what that does is allow that bag to be opened up just enough so you can suck as much of that air out of there and get your pressure to max capacity, right? And they seal up. So, and we'll go over these more in detail and how they work, whatnot. And in my opinion, that is the way to go. The reason being, in order to use those, what you use are foamy molds. So any of you guys that surf, maybe made skateboards, surfboards, and are familiar with shaping, super similar, which is cool. And I do have a background in surfboard shaping, like when I was younger. And what I use, before I get to those, I use just pink foam. I think it's like the inch, maybe inch and a half. What is this? I don't know, I think it's an inch and a half. And I glue 2 together. And a 4x8 sheet of these is $45. I'll rip it 10 to 12 inches wide or whatever, depending on what I'm making. Just run the length, and then I'll cut the length to order, so to speak, of whatever the mold. This was the first mold that I made. This is your standard popsicle boards, you know, your regular street boards. And you can kind of see what it is and how all these work. And then once you get your mold, you don't have to. I would recommend it, especially if you get leakage on your glue. What generally everybody does is wrap them. I used this 9mm white poly tape. It's what, if you're in construction, the guys that do like the covered scaffolding, it's the tape that they use to put all their shit together. And it's a great tape, but I will say a lot of guys will use the clear tape, which is nice because you can still see all your lines on it if you need it. But basically what this does is protect the mold, for one, but it also makes it so if you get glue on it, you can get it off easy, and you just put it on there. And this is what I made the board I showed you earlier with. And you can see this is the nose. So how that board is it's got a lot of concave and that wheel well up front, but then tapers off in the back, which you can see on the board, giving it that really hard bend here, but in the back, keeping it kind of mellow, you know, almost a flat, so to speak. And with these foams and these veneer bags, you can make any size, any style. I mean, you could have hundreds of these foams, make penny boards, long boards, popsicles, cruisers, pool boards, whatever the fuck you want to make. You can just have your forms stored, pull it out, slap your veneer together and throw it on it. Boom, you got skateboards. Way cheaper, way faster setup, less headache, and it works. It works great. These bags that they designed are awesome. The bags are nothing new. As a woodworker, veneer's been around forever. You can buy professional pumps. They can run you up to like $1,000. There's also, it's like fucking Uncle Jim's wood shop or some shit. It's all about veneering, and they will give you a parts list and a PDF for free where you can make your own. And the one that I've looked at that would absolutely work well, it was, I think, $220 to get all the pieces, and you just build it yourself. Super simple. So not bad. Or you can get Roar Rocket, and just theirs is a hand pump, $15. The bags, you can get them skateboard specific, design specific, where veneering is usually 4 foot wide by 8, 10, 12, 15 feet long bag that's sealed with essentially a piece of PVC pipe that you run a 1/4 or 1/8 inch bit all the way the length, so it looks kind of like a C. And then the next PVC pipe that's smaller and gauge to it just clips around it, and you roll it all together, and you alleviate this gooey tape shit, which I feel like over time could really fuck your bags up. Or you could use both systems. One thing I have not seen guys doing in the veneering is take some of those industry standard veneer tricks and use them. Not saying that there's not guys out there that don't. I just personally have not seen it. What I mean by that is what they'll take is some kind of like melamine type board, right? And what you'll do is you'll router, just has to be like an 1/8 inch thick, just basically a small thin channel, and you'll run lines, you know, all the way across the length. then all the way across the width, making like boxes essentially, and these channels for that air and vacuum and compression to go through. And what you would do is you take that foam mold, well, so you've got that, then you'll take a the fuck is it? Like masonite, there you go, like a masonite material, you know, 1/8 inch thick, and you'll have it like 1/8 to 1/4 inch smaller than the length and diameter of your melamine board. And what that does is basically leaves just like little holes kind of around the perimeter, and then your foam will sit on that. Those two boards go in the bag. Now what that allows is for all that air and pressure to be taken out evenly, equally around the entire mold, opposed to like if you just buy the kit, they send you one of those little nettings, which is essentially the same idea, and it works, but I think you could get a better product doing it the other way. Now real quick on putting these foamies together, I was using just like wood glue, your just regular old wood glue, and a guy that I've been talking to that's been building for a while, he uses just your regular spray adhesives, which is great, faster, less messy. But what it also does, when you spray it on, melts the foam, right? So that's what it'll look like. Where when you, I don't know if I have any examples. Can you see on this? No. Well, anyways, when you, oh, that one's covered. When you get to like the seam, you'll have like hole marks, which isn't a big deal because, well, we'll get to that. Where when you use just regular glue, wood glue, there's no holes in the seam. I, moving forward, will not use the spray adhesive. I don't want a bunch of holes in it because I'm hella OCD and picky. So I personally fill that in with like a spackle, whatever, and then the tape will essentially get rid of that void. But you know, you want it as perfect as possible for your press. So we covered that. Covered the glue. Okay. Next we'll go to, let's go into templates. So templates, there's several different things out there. It's all preference. This is just, again, if anybody out there is familiar in the construction industry, ram board, which is just thick cardboard paper. You make like a surfboard template, essentially. If you're familiar with surfing, these may look very, very similar to something you have used in the past, right? And I recommend get your shape, cut out half of it, be very detailed on your center lines and midlines, right? Disregard that shape as being any part of this board, that other piece, because I'm going to tell you right now, when you put them together, there's going to be a difference. You will see it. No matter how perfect you thought you got it, whether you're trying to trace a board, which I'll tell you technically you're not supposed to do that. But again, this is punk rock shit. You want to fucking trace a board? What's that fucking kid, Andy, what the fuck his name is, with the board that's way too expensive that everybody wants? You know what? Counterfeit the fuck out of them. Knock yourself out. But just know if you sell them, you probably get sued. But if you're just using them yourself, who gives a fuck? Anyways, when you use just the half and then flip it and then trace the other half, you know you're getting a perfect mirrored image, right? Because in skateboards, having that symmetry and equal shapes and whatnot on both sides is very important. And what I did is I took a shortened version of the shape from my board, and basically took in the perimeter a 1/2 inch. And how I did that to get this line so clean that I cut out off of this is all I did was take a clear ruler, put tape at the 1/2 inch mark, and then basically put my line on there, and then took my pen or pencil, stuck it in the corner of this piece of tape here, right? Holding it in place, held it there, and just followed down that line, slow and steady. And it gave me like a really, I've never tried that before. It was something I just kind of came up with on the fly, but it came out really good. Saws, you can use regular wood cutting saws. These Japanese saws are dope. I have this for regular woodworking already. The problem is that flex, which is generally why you like these, right? Because you're cutting off dowels. You can get this nice and flat and saw, you know, like a fillet knife, and get it as close to that material as possible. The problem with that is if I want something super squared and cut, having such a flexible blade that doesn't have that rigidness, it's gonna be kind of a headache. So I was at the big box store the other day and saw this guy, which is literally the same thing as a Japanese saw, but thick. Now I initially did not see this part as it was covered in cardboard and thought it was only the blade, but you can see how it's obviously thicker than the blade. Well, if I'm cutting through something, my worry was once I get to that, is it going to make a stopping point, obstruct it, change direction of the saw somehow? But I used it and it worked really, really good. Now for carving out your shapes, what I use the most of, or just a regular old rasp, you know, small guy, big guy. I started off using just foam with sandpapers glued on them like this. Just a piece of foam with fucking sandpaper glued on it. And then again was at the big box store, and they had I think the brand's Gator. They're these little foamy sanding pads. Get this is the guy right here. This is like for your shaping, getting those really tight corners, having these points and rounded edges works so good. And they had 2 other ones, so I went out and got them. They have a smaller version, and then they have just your regular squared version. This one feels like it's got like a plate in it, so it's rigid. This one's just foam. No, I can completely bend that. Oops. Or this, I cannot really bend. So then there's those. I have a lot of homemade tools as well. I use this guy a lot for several different things, whether I'm wanting to square an edge. This is just a homemade tool. All it is, collapses like that, right? And basically what it is just these 2 pieces put together with the bolt running through these 3, and then at the end my end piece from this, and then I just use, you can use a wing nut or anything similar. I like these little thumb nuts or whatever they're called, but this one's really long, and what I use this for I'll use this, like say on your tail, set this as I'm shaving it down, right? I'll set this on here to see if there's any gaps, right? Because a lot of times as you do it, it'll want to take this kind of shape, like, so your sides will be lower and you'll kind of have that hump. Well, this can kind of get you to see where you're at. Does all kinds of stuff. I also have another handmade square that I'll use. These are actually something totally different. Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. What is it called? I want to say Fibonacci. Anyways, it's a tool for scale and sizing in drawing and carpentry, stuff like that. And you can Google the golden rule ratio, and that's what these are. Now, for surfboard builders, right? Take these two pieces out in the middle. What do you got? You've essentially got a version of these, right? You also want a set of these. You can get a cheap one of these guys from like Harbor Freight for like $1 or $2. Again, another Harbor Freight. This is an electronic one, so it'll give you like your exact measurements, even though it's on there. You can lock it into place. But it's basically these where when you are making these curvatures in the rails, right? What those gauges do is basically make that C, give you what that measurement is, lock it into place, and then you take it and on the same exact spot on the other side, see if it fits in. If it doesn't, you know you got to take more off. If it fits and has space, you went too far. Now you have to maybe shave this side down to get it to match. The other tool you will want to definitely have, especially for your tail and nose, is one of these, this is the electronic version of this, and it gives you your exact angles. So if you want 25-degree tail, 27-degree nose, or whatever, you can set this exactly at it and get your lines. So this is definitely a must-have. This is a tool I used to build all the time, and it's by Craig. I love this thing. What I use it for is say I want to start making a foam and I need to get my 1/2 inch line across. I'll set this at a 1/2 inch, you know, and it'll sit right on there and give me a perfect 1/2 inch line all the way across or on the top. I've actually built bigger versions of these as well, long versions, because this is 6 inches, the blade. I've made them up to 12, 14 inches. What else? Oh, router bits. You'll also want speed squares, big and small. I also recommend getting several rulers. I like metal because they're thin. I also like the clear plastics. I also use longer rulers. Again, I like the metal thin ones. I use these templates. You can get these online. Now, Roar Rocket has a bunch of stuff, skateboard specific, but again, all that shit's hella expensive. But you can get things like these that have different curvatures and stuff that actually work on this stuff that are super cheap, come in handy. Now, Roar Rocket has a router bit. It's like $150 for doing your rails. But it's basically just like this. It's a roundover bit, and then that's your cutting edge. There's this bearing on top, right? Well, theirs has a huge skateboard bearing on the bottom as well. And obviously it's a decent quality router bit. $150 for a router bit is by no means expensive. This is a cheapo, just a Bosch. I got it for like $40. And have not used it yet, but should work pretty good. Your big tool that you're going to want to have is your bandsaw. I have a 10-inch Rikon, works great. But maybe you're a kid at home watching this, you're like, fuck, I can't afford no $700 bandsaw. Use a jigsaw, right? And there's a guy on YouTube, Good Roads, and he does a lot of the 3D printing stuff. And I believe he has attachments for both routers, jigsaws, that make the whole process a lot easier. You'll also want a good like bench belt sander. I think you can get the Harbor Freight ones for like $60. I would not recommend using hand sanders or hand belt sanders. It just leaves too much room for error. Now at the end, when it comes to routing, this is pretty much done as far as shape. I do have to touch up a few spots to get it to the line. Never go past your line. You went past your line, you done fucked up. It's not take it on the line. It's not take it just a little past the line. You take it to the line and stop. Strict. Don't break that rule. Look at it as soon as you go past that line, that's it. You done fucked up. So now it's all that's left is to router. If you don't have, you know, some badass Craig router table and fucking Festool router and all that bullshit, that's fine. The router tables I feel are kind of sketchy. I haven't done the routing part yet for something like this, and it's definitely the most dangerous part of the process using those, so be careful. Anytime you use a router is, outside of a saw, hands down the most dangerous power tool you will commonly used power tool you will fuck with. A lot of guys' first reaction when they want to router these, right, is to do, right, because that's how you run a router. The problem is, once you get to these flare spots, see how that plate leaves the wood? That's bad. There's a guy, Johnny Manic, fucking sick. The dude's like, he don't even know it. Who knows? Maybe he'll see my fucking YouTube video. You're my mentor, man. That guy, he's got it just dialed in and is making some sick boards. I actually want to order some from him and support what he's got going on, and buy some myself. Anyways, what he recommends, which I agree with, is run your the router sideways. Put your plate against it, drop it down to your bit, and then run it. And then, right, when you get to these pockets, you go down with the contour and then come up. So then the plate's never an issue. Okay. So I think for now I am going to stop the video because I'm at like 48 minutes. This is like a tester video, and I'm not sure how it's gonna upload or whatnot. I know it's boring. It's just me fucking running my gums. But this is the start to making more videos that are of more value, and walking you guys through the process, showing you guys my journey through the process, what I fuck up, what I don't. Like I said, I know a lot of guys on YouTube, not in this per se, but they tell you how to do a bunch of shit, and most of the time it don't work. And then off camera, they have to redo it multiple times, then don't tell you that because they want to look like they know what they're doing and pretend. And really, they're just selling you bullshit. We fuck up here, we let you know, now we fucked up. Like mine, I fucked up. Where I fucked up is, first off, I let it cure for 2 days. You only gotta let it cure for an hour, 24 hours in the bag before you can take it out. It's cold here in Washington, so I just went an extra day. I was excited. I wanted to see how my feet felt on it, put it on the carpet, just kind of lightly, which was fine. And then I kind of was like gonna lean back on the tail just to feel, and they're like, well, I done fucking fucked up, because I had a perfect lamb, but you can see, maybe, there it is, right there. See that? Where that, there it goes. See where that veneer separated? Which is fine. It still has contact. This is for my 8-year-old daughter, so it'll totally be fine. She's not a pro skater. But obviously a good quality deck, you don't want that ever anywhere. I would recommend, and this is just a guess, I wouldn't stand on this for at least 2 weeks. And that's the other thing. Not only do not stand on it, do not ride it, don't work on it either. Cutting it, running it through the sander, I mean, I could feel the moisture in the veneers almost from handling it, you know, because you have to use a lot of glue. Which brings me to one more thing. Let me cover the glue, and then we'll end this shit. When you glue, you find the happy medium. Not too much, not too little. I went light, so it may be a glue problem, and I'll show you what I used and how I've switched it up from what I've seen. Too much glue can cause warping. If you're a woodworker, obviously, you know, wood and water can have value and be used together, but they generally don't like each other and can create problems. So you want a ton of glue to get a good bond and bite when it cures, but you don't want so much that it's making shit warp. But you don't want to use too little and then your veneers start separating. Now overall, see if it'll go into focus. Overall, my veneering, come on. Do it. You fucker. Maybe something like that. Oh, oh. Ah! I'm gonna try this side. Overall, there we go. I just had it. Maybe if I put some, there we go. It's like my camera's like trying to constantly adjust. Well, anyways, I don't know if you guys can see it well. I know it's kind of fuzzy. My veneers actually came out really, really good, except for that one sheet. That was after I stood on it and worked on it. But I'm definitely gonna add more glue. Most guys just use a 3/8 nap. I don't like that per se. You can get chunks of nap in between your veneers. You can get chunky glue. So I instead decided to use these cabinet and door foam rollers, and I really like them. They're these. That's it. And it really helps you control the glue and get all that on there evenly. And that's the other thing too, when you do glue, make sure when you start gluing, you should be ready to press. What I mean is, have your bag out, or your whatever you're gonna use, we'll say bag. Have your bag out, have your cloths already inside underneath your board if you're gonna use one, or have your foam already setting in there. Have your pump out, ready to go, and then do your gluing process. Run some tape around your veneers so they don't shift in that wet glue. Slide it in, seal it, vacuum. You don't want that glue trying to cure and set up. When I did it, it's super cold here, so I wasn't too worried about it kicking really fast, but it can, so that's something to be mindful of. Anyways, guys, I still have a ton of shit. I have a bunch of YouTube or Facebook videos I did that actually came out pretty good and had some decent information on them, I felt. So if I can figure out how to transfer those over where I was actually in the process of making this shit, I'll try and download those. But for now, we're just going to stop here. We're at 55 minutes. I'm going to upload this. I'll probably delete it later. And then as I start working on this stuff and going through the steps, I will add more videos. All right, guys. Have a good one.